إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله.
Why does Venezuela collapse? It has debt, mortgage. It's defaulted on a payment of interest on a mortgage, couldn't pay. And it was in US dollars. So what did the United States say? You don't pay, you either give us your gold or we'll shut down your country. Basically. Same in Argentina, the same in country close to you, Zimbabwe. So what does the government do? In Egypt, for instance, say you're not allowed to take out your money. You have money in the bank, you're not allowed to take it out. Or you can just take out a sum of money. The case that happens is this is local currency, Kenyan shilling, and this happens. These defaults, this goes to the bank to take out the money. What happens? What does the Kenyan government do? And it's actually doing it now. Yes, it prints money. I want to cover up this. Is that a good strategy? No. What does that result in? And it's actually happening now in Kenya. Inflation, and usually hyperinflation. It crushes nations. It destroys nations and people, humans. It destroys wealthy nations, not poor. Venezuela is not poor. Zimbabwe is not a poor nation. It has gold. It has so much resources. It destroys nations because this system is basically quite evil. It's really evil. I'll tell you how it destroyed the Muslim nations now. Everybody got this? Simple. So simple, but sometimes so complicated. And I see, unfortunately, when ulama makes fatwas, and I've seen it, and I've done it in Europe, they say, no, it's halal. You can do this because we need to. You need to buy a house. I guarantee you the consequences will be fatal. People that put money in their bank, when this collapses, people, you can count them. In Venezuela, people lost all their money, all their savings, everything. In Zimbabwe, the same. In Egypt, the same. In Greece, the same. Spain, the same. We can go country after country after country after country. So when these countries collapse, what happens? Conflicts, wars. Second World War was a direct consequence of this. 70 million people died. Because Germany, they tried to get economic growth through the financial model. They borrowed a lot of money. And when the system was on the verge of collapsing, the German finance minister started to print money. If you have had history, you'll see that the Germans had to use carriages to buy an apple of Deutsche Mark. So when this collapsed, they said, well, we need what we called earlier tangible assets. We need something of value. So what did the Germans do? They went to Poland and stole, and the war was on. The same did the UK, but they stole from Kenya, it stole from India, it stole from all these countries when they had the long depressions in the 1820s. This system is really bad. I'll tell you now an example of how bad it is. Because it's one thing that we talk about the non-Muslim nations because they don't have the Quran. They don't know better. In I think it was 1856. 1856. You all heard about the Ottoman Empire, right? It's a small empire or...
Ottoman Empire from Turkey.
Yes, it's from Turkey. Right. It was a small empire or a big empire? Big empire. It was in Europe, Asia, and Africa. I think it controlled Kenya even. Not Kenya, Somalia at least. Yeah. It was on Somalia, I know. So in 1856, ulama Ottoman Empire says, we will allow the trade in financial assets. They borrow money, debt. So they engage in mortgage.
The cameraman is asking if you can use this side of the board because of the reflection of the light.
This side?
Yes.
Okay. I will use this side so the cameraman can film. 1856. They take a mortgage. 1850 seems very harmless. Huge empire, we have a lot of income, we should manage, right? And I think it was, right now, 1875. 1875, 50% of the total income of the Ottoman Empire is used to pay interests and down payments. 50%. Is that a lot or a small amount? It's a huge empire. So, 1875, on the 13th of Ramadan, subhanallah, the last day of Ramadan, the day before Eid, the Ottoman Empire declares itself bankrupt. It's finished. It's closed. People think the Ottoman Empire fell after the First World War. No. This is the year the Ottoman Empire was finished. So, OPDA was established, Ottoman Public Debt Administration was established in Turkey, in Istanbul. And who had the money? Who owned the Ottoman Empire now? It's actually UK, very good, England. And it's actually one man who did this. His name is Benjamin the Israel. Very important man. He took down the Ottoman Empire without using any guns, without even going to war. He crushed the Muslim empire without even having to go to war. So the question then comes, since we are using the Quran, and the Quran has the answers for everything, what happened here? What did they actually do when the Ottoman Empire did this? Anybody who knows the Quran? Hafiz? Can you say it out loud? فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. And who? Who is he talking about? If you go a little bit earlier in the surah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Is talking to the Muslims, those who believe. When they do this, they enter a war with Allah and Rasuluh. It's not a war they're going to win. Can you win a war against Allah? No, we can never win a war against Allah. Allah doesn't want to punish us. He wants to help us to maximize value creation. If the Ottoman Empire didn't do this, they followed the Quran, just follow it. You don't have to understand. They didn't have to understand this model. And probably they didn't. And most of the ulama today who makes this fatwa, they don't understand this model. If I show them, I tell them, can you show me how money is made? How financial transaction happens? I've never seen one of them been able to show me this. This is the problem. So, you declare war on Allah wa Rasulih, if you are a mu'min. If it hadn't fallen, we don't know what would happen, but today the Muslim empire, the Muslim countries, since that day, 1875, it has never been stability in the Muslim countries. It crushed the Muslims. It really crushed us as Muslims. It's a punishment. Unfortunately, we would think we would learn from history, but we haven't. A couple of years ago, Saudi Arabia takes debt. They borrow money. Saudi Arabia, a rich nation, they don't need to borrow money. And suddenly they have debt. And last week actually, they issue bonds, meaning debt. And what do they put? Bonds for what? It's for their most important company. The only company that creates value in Saudi Arabia, Aramco. Aramco issue bonds. Trust me, they don't know what is happening. But Saudi Arabia is finished. You don't need to be an expert. A couple of years from now, there is no more Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia will be totally different from what we know. You just don't understand it yet. This is what debt and trade in financial objects do, both to nations and to humans. In the United States, in 2008, they had a financial crash. This system crashed a little bit. Obama did a very bad thing. He printed dollars. But they have military power, so they can force value from other people. But actually, within that period, short period of time, 10,000 people in the United States took suicide, killed themselves, just because of this. 10,000 directly related to this. In the UK, I have it on the computers, and they did a study. 100,000 adults a year considers to killing themselves because of debt. 100,000. And the crisis is still not really hit us. It will hit us, and it will hit us very, very bad. So when I advise Muslims, I say, you want to be smart? Do not have your money in the bank. Follow the Quran. Invest in tangible assets, production and services. Because this will take down nations. United Nations, I think it's only 3 weeks ago, they say, we have a huge problem with the financial model. This financial model will take the world down. CIA says, it's not terrorists. They have the report, annual report. We shouldn't fear ISIS or Al-Qaeda or all these Muslims. What we have, the hugest, biggest problem in the world is debt with interest rates. It's trading financial objects. This is the largest problem in the world. For Africa, the only reason Africa is as poor as it is what? Is debt. That's the only, isn't the resource in Africa? It's so much. You know, it shouldn't be poor. It's impossible. In Uganda, I went to Uganda last week. You just put anything in the soil, you get food up. Anything. It shouldn't be poverty in Uganda. It should be impossible to have poverty. But they have to pay the debt, the interest rate. So this system is really, really bad. And we can go through. Any questions so far? Having the money in the bank is not smart. And already now, because there's technicalities, but within a short period of time, the Kenyan government, for instance, they issued a euro bond, meaning they are borrowing money in euros. This bond is soon defaulting, so they have to pay. It's a challenge, we don't have it. So they have two choices. They're now doing. First of all, they're printing more money now. So that's why we have inflation now in Kenya. They don't say we're printing, but I guess with inflation up to almost 5% now the last quarter, it means there's something wrong. And the currency is going down. So they're printing money probably.
2010 in Europe, 10 banks went to bust.
Yes, it's a lot. I can't go through that now, but yes, that's true. So, investment in tangible assets, that's the framework for Islam. Yes, question. You have to raise your voice so they can.
Trading in stock exchange, does it fall under financial assets?
No, trading in stock exchange in principle is halal because you're buying shares in a company who does production. But if you buy shares in a bank, haram. If you buy shares in anybody producing alcohol, haram. Pork, haram. Prostitution or gambling, you know the list. It's 4 reasons. Yes?
Okay, and there's some people who borrow money from the banks.
Yes?
And they do tangible assets, maybe, for example, like housing.
Yes?
And they sell the housing.
Yes?
But
Haram.
At the end, they
Haram. Finished. Haram. Haram. Why is it haram? Because this is the point. You don't know when it stops. You borrow money from the bank. I'm going to build this 10 stories house. I've seen it so many times, nation after nation. And then suddenly, it crashes. I own the bank money. I haven't finished the housing. I haven't sold. Nobody can buy because the buyers, they have to borrow money from the bank. And it crashes. In Spain, when it's crashed, you can find buildings everywhere empty. It's a huge problem. You just don't know when it crashes. But when it crashes, it destroys the nation. It destroys you. So keep away from it. Yes?
Following on his question, you say, for example, I do have my house, I want to sell it. And for it to sell, this person has to deposit money in my bank account.
Yes.
The bank has already gotten something as long as the deposit has been made. Because otherwise, I'm not going to carry 20 million in cash in a sack or in a bag.
Yes.
So what is the alternative?
Yes, this is the problem with this system. This is the evil of the system. It locks you in. It forces people. This is what's evil. And it forces who? The normal man. The big business people. They buy land. They use this 10 million to buy production. They have factories. They have all this. But the man on the street, a normal man, he's locked into the system. And actually in Europe, you're forced. It says now they're trying to do it electronically. You are not allowed to have cash. And as a businessman in Europe, I cannot pay cash for services to another. This is because they know the system is going to crash. And the biggest problem is people start understanding it before it crashes and they take out their money. But if you take this 10 million and you buy production, you buy assets, you buy land, you buy something, do not have it in cash in your bank. That's a good advice. Invest it. Production. You will make money, inshallah. Yes. Yes.
Can you
Raise high voice.
you have so much knowledge in Islam and economics.
Yes.
Can you please
No.
advise the government, the Kenyan government, so that don't end up like Zimbabwe?
It was on the road. I had a sheikh who's done magister in economics in Malaysia, and we discussed this. And he says, I just don't understand. How does these stupid people come to power? It's not just here. It's many countries. Yes. How do you get to become financial minister and you don't understand this? And trust me, a lot of ministers, they do not understand this. They don't. They basically don't. And this is a question. And that's a tough question. I can't do anything with it. Yes.
Like you said, that common man has been locked into this system.
Yes.
So how do you move out of it if you are in it?
You move out of it if you're in it. First, you find a way to invest in something tangible. Yeah, he says, if you're a common man, you're locked into the system. I have nowhere to go except using the bank. What should I do? And it's a good question. It's a very difficult. It's difficult to answer it because usually the common man, he doesn't have a lot of money. He can't buy a factory. So what I advise the Muslim communities when they are a minority and we don't have a Muslim system is that you create solutions. For instance, you start funds where people can invest their money together. And they can buy land, they can buy factories, they can buy different things. Halal funds. I think there's only one, there's a very small solution to this in Kenya and in general in the Islamic world. But that's why I said, when I talk to ulama, if you're going to give a fatwa, the fatwa you're going to give is that you're going to make it obligation for the Muslims to start a fund where they can invest, put their money instead of the bank. Not going to the bank and say that this is halal. For instance, I went to a Muslim community. They have approximately 5,000 members. And a huge problem is buying apartments in this society. So I said, and there came a fatwa, yeah, you can buy apartment with debt. I said, why did you make that fatwa? Why didn't you say that these 5,000 people should put, I said it was approximately $2,000 in one box. Everybody should put $2,000, make the obligation. You don't lose your money, it's an investment. And you build 50 apartments. And then you rent out these 50 apartments. The next year you can build 20 apartments. And the next year you can build 40 apartments. And if they did that in 2000, when I advised the Muslim community to do that, they would have owned the country they're in today. And they're a minority in that country. Because when you have suddenly 200 apartments and every Muslim owns his apartment, then you need a company to do janitors, you need electricity, you need a lot of stuff which you can use in that community. That's how you build wealth, real wealth. But no, the ulama came and said, yeah, it's so difficult, take debt. And they would suffer because they are low income. They will suffer. They are the first one to suffer, unfortunately. And this is because the ulama, many of them, not all of them, of course, do not understand the model. They're also, yes. Raise your voice. Yes, take on Islamic banking. I was waiting for that question. We have in saying in Arabic, and for